Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. And I return to you once again to be the unrelenting voice of the Vasectomites. And today I wanted us to talk about something that I have to be honest, I'm not very familiar with and I know very little about. And that is the topic of laziness. I have to be even more honest. I've always been curious about lazy people and what type of person practices or even follows a philosophy of laziness and practically doing nothing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about taking breaks, having a rest, avoiding burnout and exhaustion. But I would hardly call that activity or those activities for those reasons laziness. I would describe that more as a practice, a rest to increase productivity by avoiding, exhaustion, burnout, the type of wear and tear that leads to a complete collapse or a complete breakdown. This is why I advocate for taking a break every 90 days, working productively, indeed, especially for bachelors. So if you don't have children and you're not dating in that kind of situation, then what you can do is create a 90-day or 3-month work cycle where you're working for 3 months and at the end of 90 days, you take a break for 2 or 3 weeks, 21 days, however many days you can get, and then begin the cycle all over again, right? 90 days, take a break, 90 days, take a break, and that should help you complete the financial economic year. For that reason, I believe should you follow this strategy, at least in the early or middle part of your career, you should be able to achieve a great amount of productivity and wealth. On the one hand, you're not going out every weekend. So the purpose of this is for you to work a 6-day week, to be able to have the strength to work a 6-day week. So you got to cut out partying during the 90-day period. So there's no partying, there's no going out. You're going to work Monday to Saturday. Sundays is off. That's your rest day. That's your prep day. And Monday to Friday, you can do overtime because overtime is paid at time and a half. If you do 2 hours of overtime, you will earn 3 hours of work. And on Saturdays, if you do 8 hours of work, just a normal day, you will earn around 12 hours of work, right? So the salary, so you do 8 hours of labor, but they pay you for 12 hours. This is on Saturday. Monday to Friday, you do 10 hours of labor, and they'll pay you. So you do your normal regular 8 hours, you get paid for 8 hours. Then you do an additional 2 hours of work, they will pay you 3 hours. If your overtime is paid at time and a half. If you do this and you can do the numbers, right? Calculate your salary based on time and a half, and then work out these numbers. Working 2 hours, not three, 2 hours Monday to Friday, and then working 8 hours on Saturday. You will double your salary. I guarantee you, I've done the numbers and I've checked them. You follow this schedule, you will double your salary, or at least get like 90 to 95%. So you'll get your normal salary plus an additional 95%, right? You will literally double your salary. You don't believe me? You're more than welcome to check these numbers. Work out how much is overtime pay. If it's time and a half, definitely I guarantee that, right? So if it's double, if they pay you double for overtime, you're definitely going to be over double your salary just by doing 2 hours of work and working one extra day a week. Then, of course, so instead of going out every Friday, you will accumulate vacation days. And then you can go out during your vacation. You can go somewhere nice and do whatever you want for those 2 or 3 weeks. Of course, while you're away for 2 weeks, you may receive your regular salary because you are due vacation days, but you will not be earning extra time. This is how I organize my breaks, and it keeps me going, right? It keeps me sustained. On the one hand, it makes me very productive and reliable at work because I'm not sick, I'm not tired, I'm not burned out, I'm not hungover, I'm not delayed, I'm not late or anything like that. I just live a regular, stable life, which means I'm very reliable at work and productive, right? They benefit as well as I. But simultaneously, when I do take downtime, I can take it all at once without having to worry about being responsible tomorrow. So I can be completely free. And I don't think many people enjoy that type of freedom where you can get almost a month off every 3 months. You get about almost a month off just to do whatever you want, right? No one is really gonna enjoy that type of freedom. This is not, to me, it's not laziness, right? Yes, when you're not working, you can be as lazy as you want, right? This to me is efficiency and productivity in terms of the work scale that we have in modern times. In my heart, however, I've always wanted to be lazy, if I have to be honest to you. But I didn't want to be poor lazy, right? You don't want to be poor and lazy, right? What they call a lazy bum, right? A lazy rear end, a lazy posterior. No, no, I wanted to be rich and lazy, which I think is what most people want when they're lazy, right? They want to be rich but then not do anything, right? So like I wanted to have more than enough money, more than enough wealth, and then just lounge and lavish and luxury, that kind of thing while people pretend to like me because I pay them, and then they have to do things for me that I like and do the things that I enjoy. Rich lazy. It's a complete fantasy. It's a delusion. It's not even possible, right? I could never imagine being comfortable enough to live in failure. I could never imagine being comfortable living in poverty and in squalor without savings, that kind of thing, without really a plan, while never making an attempt at rising up in some way, in some meaningful way, and in some meaningful capacity, rising up out of this obscurity, right? In truth, I'm competitive, but I'm like vain in my competition, right? I wouldn't be able to tolerate someone looking down on me for being in a negative situation or set of circumstances while I had the ability and the capacity and the means to liberate myself. from those circumstances and that obscurity. I couldn't have that. I couldn't have, the power to do it and then not do it and then have somebody else who's less efficient, less effective, with, a lower capacity look down on me for something that I could fix. I don't think I'd be okay with that, right? Actually, this is not just an anecdotal example. More factually, I follow the principle laid out by the grandmaster of the deceptive arts himself, Sun Tzu. And what I want to do is effectively put myself beyond the possibility of defeat before I declare the war. So effectively, I want to put myself beyond the possibility of you looking down on me, so that I can look down on you. You know, I love being competitive against people that are lazy, right? Against lazy and incompetent people. Like, it's one thing if you don't have a particular skill, but you're hardworking, you're diligent, you're resilient, you persevere, and no matter what I do, you can absorb it, adapt, and then try again. People like that, they can be very frustrating. They help you to up your skill and improve your game, but simultaneously they can be very difficult to defeat and to overcome. But lazy and incompetent people, who are waiting, for like the whistle to blow during the game, right? You know those kinds of people that are braggadocious before the game starts, right, or a match starts, because maybe they look smart in their uniforms or whatever the situation is, and then the real competition starts, and they have all the energy and all the fire, and then like 10 minutes in, they're exhausted, they're completely finished. And then they start falling all over themselves, making mistakes. They start fouling other players. But because they're so tired, they don't even have like the power to foul you properly. And they stumble over themselves. And then what they'll claim is that you fouled them. That's the kind of competitor that I'm talking about. One that's lazy and incompetent, right? And the whole time they're just waiting for a moment, for the referee or the umpire to blow the whistle so they can have a few minutes to rest and catch their breath. Have you ever seen like people like that? I love that. I love that, right? When you're just huffing and puffing, right? And you start falling apart, while I, on the other hand, who's a much more diligent person, I've been training, I've been prepared, I've been doing my cardio, I'm fit, I'm trained, I understand the rules of the game. I'm ready. I'm ready for the competition. But you spent all the time, gaslighting yourself and pumping yourself up and hyping yourself up, and no time spent actually working on the game. No drills, no fitness, no exercise, no diet, no plan, nothing. All right. I love that kind of competitor, right? I love nothing more than that, While you were being lazy, right? And just relaxing and building yourself up emotionally and psychologically, there are some people that are working. And while they may not be where they want to be, they are getting better at the work they do. They are getting better at working, right? And 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 I'm one of those people. So on the one hand, maybe the videos and graphics and so forth may not be what others do, you know. But I do know that I'm forging my own style and I'm forging my own processes, right? And while I may not be where I want to be effectively, and I know exactly where I'm going to be, I'm getting better at doing what I'm doing. Not getting better at doing what you're doing, but I'm getting better at doing what I'm doing. I'm getting better at working my program, my system, right? And I would love nothing more. I would love nothing more than the day to come where I look down on everybody else that was doing what everybody else was doing because you were lazy. All the ones that are reviewing the same videos all the time, doing the same topics. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do the same topic too, but I don't do the same topic, right? All that laziness, all that laziness it's just gonna come crashing down, right? It's just gonna come crashing down, and it's gonna give people who had a genuine message. By the way, speaking of a genuine message, please go freeze your sperm and go get a vasectomy. Right? I'm gonna take a moment to talk about this. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. This is the message for the platform, and every time it comes up, I will take the time to give it its due, right? This is what the whole platform is built on, right? We cannot and will not just brush through that talking point. All this is about you going to a fertility clinic, freezing your sperm. So if you want to have children, you can do so under right circumstances with all the advantages given to you. Then you need to go speak to your urologist and get yourself a vasectomy. So you can protect yourself out here, protect your seed, protect your solitude, and get yourself some peace of mind. I guarantee you peace of mind, right? This is not the thing to be lazy about. This is not the thing to be lazy about. Don't be like the knee benders. You have the information. You know what you got to do. The urologist will tell you everything you need. The fertility clinic will tell you everything you need. Go in there initially to get the information that you need to get so that you can take the steps that you want to take. All right, but this is not the thing to be lazy about, because the consequences of this are going to be catastrophic. Right? The consequences of this are going to be catastrophic, and you're going to be standing there talking about how child support is not fair. You know, these are the type of people that I'm talking about, where you have the information, but you're too lazy to take the actions, the steps. And then you're going to be talking about how unfair life is, how unfair the game is, how unfair the laws are, how unfair child support is. And I'm not one who's going to feel sorry for you. I'm going to be looking down on you. I'm going to be here living as a vasectomite, living the vasectomy life, looking down on you. This is what I'm talking about. These are the kind of people that I love looking down on. These are the people that I cannot have a knee bender who's struggling to pay bills look down on me. Absolutely not. You know, if your results as a lazy person are anything like what I imagine, then let me tell you that you're headed towards calamity and tribulation. Just the hardest time, especially financially. Right? You see, let me speak about myself for a moment in a direct way. Yes, I know I'm always talking about myself, but now I'm just going to speak about myself directly. You see, for me, every time that I apply skill in a deliberate, consistent, persistent way, when I put action forward to the right idea, right? So for instance, I want to make videos. This is the action. And I put forth the action to deliver videos, right? With the right idea, the right mind, and then I do it in order to get that result. I find that when I do that, I'm always getting consistent results, right? When I do that persistently and consistently, I find persistent and consistent results, right? When I work on being healthy, I become healthy. When I work on increasing my savings, which, please guys, that money that you make from the overtime, you gotta save all that. I'm not gonna be here promoting investments, giving your money away to strangers, people you don't know, just because they have a suit and work in an office, right? I'm not promoting investing in any stock, in any crypto, in anything that is not direct legal tender. Cash money. And if you think rich people don't like cash money, you're kidding yourself. Everybody loves that cash money. Everybody loves cash money. And they'll take cash money before they'll take your card, by the way. And I know you use your card for everything, but they'll take that cash money before the card. I guarantee you that. So, save your cash. Save your cash. And if you're investing, I suggest investments equal no more than 10%. So in fact, I'd say like 9%. So 1% is your entertainment budget, right? So if you want to spend $10,000 on entertainment, you need to make $1,000,000. It's just that simple. And I know you're saying, oh, but that's too much. Well, you're going to spend 50% of your income on entertainment. No, no, it has to be at 1%. And if you're gonna be playing with investments and spending big money trying to get, investments, I suggest you bring that to about 9%. Right, and I'm being generous. I wanted to say another 1%, but really you're not playing the game right. You got $1,000,000. You put down 90,000. That's around 9%. And then puts your whole budget that you spend on other people. This is the total amount of money that you spend on other people. You bring it to around 10%, right? You bring that to around 10%. Then maybe I think you can act comfortably, right? But increase your savings. If you're diligent about increasing your savings will increase, right? I'm not one who's gonna tell you to give your money to other people. Not that cash money, man. No way, no way. Not your cash, because that's what they want. You know, Try this. Buy some shares in something today. Sign the paper, transfer the money, do whatever you want. Then go home, sleep. Wake up the next day, go back to the same guy that helped you yesterday. I promise you, he'll remember you. And then tell him you want your money back and see what happens. I guarantee you will walk out of there with everything except money. Because if he gives you money, he gets fired. They'll fire him for giving you back your money. They'll fire him for giving you back 1 single cent of your money. They will fire him. You're not getting your money back. That's the irony of it. That's the irony of the money. They'll say invest in us and we'll make money for you, but you want that money back, you won't get it back. And if you do, they'll give it back to you at a heavy, heavy fee. Heavy penalty. You know why? Do you really want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because it's not your money anymore. It's their money now. They gave you shares. You own the shares. If you want to make money from your shares, you have to sell your shares to somebody else. Why would a company that sells shares want to buy their shares back? They don't want the shares, they want the money. Save your money. Save your money, right? Save your money, let it increase. And it's the same way that when I want to save my money and I'm diligent about it and not giving it to anybody, the money increases. In the same way, when I speak, when I decide that I will speak as the voice of the vasectomites, then I know that I shall be heard. What I'm talking about is taking action. Right? taking action in order to make what is in your mind a reality. Inversely, when I'm being lazy, when I'm unwilling to work, when I refuse to use energy, I face immediate catastrophe and the consequences are just always bad. And it doesn't take long to take effect. It's immediate. And this is what I mean by lazy, right? Right here. I mean having the energy, having the knowledge, having the capacity to gain an advantage, to gain some skill, to gain some knowledge, to gain some information, right? But not only that, you also have the opportunity to do so, and you simply don't do it. And you simply have no desire, no will to take an action. Not because you don't desire the outcomes of the result, but simply because you are unwilling to take that action. You are unwilling to expand that energy. You are unwilling to animate your limbs to take that action. You're lazy. And this is part of the reason some people don't want to go get that vasectomy. You'll have, and if you're saying it's money, it's not true. Money is not the problem. Your medical aid, your medical insurance company, they will pay you. They will pay for that, I beg your pardon. They won't pay you, but they'll pay for that. They'll pay for the fertility clinic, they'll pay for the urologist, and they'll pay for the vasectomy itself, right? And they may even pay for the treatment too. And you don't take the action not because you don't desire those outcomes. You're not taking that action because you don't want a vasectomy, but you're just lazy. And that's a problem. For most lazy people, ironically, responsibility is the cure for their laziness, right? They won't work until they have to. They won't take action until they are compelled to, either by circumstances that they put themselves in or by law. Think of the statistical anomaly that married men make more money than unmarried men. To me, that sounds like laziness. It's an indication of laziness. These knee benders initially had no desire to acquire wealth, to buy that big house, to go live, in that neighborhood and drive that car. No, they had no desire for wealth. They had no desire to lead a movement as we are doing here by saying freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. They never wanted a promotion at work. They never wanted to grow professionally until they got those bills. You know what I'm talking about. That tuition, that school fees, that healthcare bill, that birth, that afterbirth care, the transportation costs to school, from school to activities, the vacations, the tutoring, the nannies. They had no desire to advance in any part of life until the bills came. They wanted to just chill and flex. You remember that trend to just chill and flex with their girlfriend? They wanted to do that for the rest of their life until their girlfriend got pregnant. These men, these knee benders, their ambition grew strong and true the moment they saw that hospital bill for twins. And you know how the bill goes, right? 1+1 =5. That's how they work it out for twins. 1+1 =5. Sure, I'll be the first to say, that it doesn't really matter what motivates a person to work hard, as long as you are motivated, right? As long as something motivates you. But are you really motivated to accomplish bills? Or are you just obligated? right? Are you motivated to pay these bills, this tuition, this health care, right? Everything, this entertainment, the Wi-Fi, the phone bills, all of that? Or is it something that you just have to do? What would happen, I wonder, if you stopped paying those bills? What would happen if you stopped paying for the school fees and the tuition and the activities and the health care and the house and the car, right? However many cars, right? And the trips and the vacations. I'll tell you exactly what would happen. You would end up in jail. You would absolutely end up in jail. And the irony is, the longer you keep paying those bills, you're going to end up getting divorced. So, on the one hand, if you don't pay the bills, you go to jail. On the other hand, you keep paying those bills, you're going to end up divorced. And this is the irony of it. This is the irony, right? When she divorces you, she's going to say she doesn't want to live the life that you are providing. Then she's going to go and apply for alimony so that you can keep providing the life that you are providing, the life that she said she didn't want to live anymore. She said she didn't want to live under that budget because living under your budget was financial abuse. Now that she doesn't have your budget, she wants to go to court to get the judge to put her back into your budget that she said was financially abusing her. Do you understand the stupidity of all this? Do you realize the magnitude of the incompetence that you are in? You give her something to eat. She says she doesn't want something to eat. She goes and sues you so you can stop providing her the thing that she said she didn't want to eat. Then afterwards, then she starts another lawsuit to sue you so you can then provide her the thing that you had given her to eat to begin with. Madness. But if you don't, you go to jail. And this is the obligation that you put yourself under as a knee bender. That's why I call you knee benders. You bend the knee to do this? Come on, man. Come on, man. This is the obligation. This is the dark dimension. This is the madness of it. And your logic is letting you know that this doesn't make no sense. This doesn't make no sense, right? And I've never even been married, and I can see that this makes absolutely no sense, right? And this is why you should never feel sorry for these knee benders. You should never feel sorry for these knee benders. Number one, they did it to themselves. And number two, these men would be not, if it wasn't for this foolishness, this going around and around in circles, these men would be motivated by nothing. If they're not going around and around in circles, they have no upward mobility. They would do absolutely nothing other than indulge in debauchery, indulge in illicit substances, socialize with unscrupulous counterparts, unscrupulous characters like the panderers, the pay-for-play panderers, right? And then be intimate all day long. That's all they would do. All the while being a complete drain on the resources of the family, the society, the community, the country, and humanity, which they claim to be building by having a family. And in a certain way, that might be true. Because if they weren't doing this, they would be they would be engaged in substance abuse until they overdosed. They would be having intimacy until either they caught something and then they just keep spreading it, or until somebody got inseminated and pregnant. These are all the so-called players. These guys whose only ambition in life was to be a player and make just enough money to be a player until somebody got pregnant. Then the game's ended. Not a player, no more. And all they do is just be carried along, We have to carry these lazy people along at a great cost, right? And a very low return on investment. This is what I think the consequences of being lazy really, really are. To supplement my thoughts, I have an article here today. It's entitled The Effect of Laziness. I could not find an author attached to it. There was a lady, Lisa Post. Lisa Post was attached to this article, but I couldn't be certain if she had written this particular article or not, but she may very well be. I apologize, Lisa Post, for not, adding you to my reference. That being said, there is the link to this article that was published on the 1st of November 2021. It is Coffee House Writers, as I believe it's a myriad of writers who, put together their thoughts. And it's actually quite a nice platform if you're interested in that kind of thing. There is the link to the actual article itself, and it starts off with a quote from Ben Franklin. Now, let me tell you something about quotes. There's really no way of being sure if somebody had said that thing. Nowadays, we have videos, so we could just play your words back to you. But quotes that were written down in words are generally misrepresented, right? Like he may have been talking about something completely different, and now they are putting his quote in front of us under completely different circumstances. Or he didn't say these words at all. He may have said something similar, but not exactly this. But he is credited with saying, idleness is the Dead Sea that swallows all virtue. Now, does that sound like something that somebody would say in their natural speech? Perhaps, perhaps. It reads, but it's very true, by the way. Idleness is the Dead Sea that swallows all virtue. I agree with it. I will not be using it in my own daily life, but it's nice enough for the article. Lisa, I believe, writes, rainy days make me desire one thing, curling up with tea and a good book. The tea, yes. The good book, absolutely. Curling up, not so much. What is wrong with that, with the curling up? I'm just going to move on. Nothing. Yeah, okay. Now she's answering her own questions. For many people, the luxury of spending a day in their favorite lounge clothes is a treat. Oh, by lounge clothes, she's talking about those 5 day stanking pajamas. Oh, I hate those 5 day pajamas. I cannot stand them. If there's a lady that's watching this, those 5 day stank pajamas, I hate them. I hate them. I hate those first. Next is leggings. Oh, I can't stand leggings, but I'd rather deal with leggings than those 5 day pajamas with the little teddies on it and the teddies in the hearts. How I just don't get it. They got the teddies on a cloud with a heart and it's baby blue. Oh my God. I hate everything about those pajamas, and they all have the same fabric. I don't even know what that fabric is, but you all have them, and they're all made of the same fabric, and they don't fit you. Let's continue. Um, yes, where am I? Lounge clothes. Lounge clothes. Why is it a treat? Because most other days they work hard and expend a lot of mental and physical energy. Okay, sure. Um, this is why you need a cutoff time. A lot of people will work all year round and only take public holidays as a vacation. even though their contract lets them have several days of leave per year, right? Like you maybe do like 2 weeks every or a week every 90 days or something. You should take that week or 2 weeks, right? If you take a week, which is 5 days, you get the weekend. You get 2 weekends with that, which means you get around 9 days, almost 10 days. So it's worth taking. Now let's imagine a different scenario. Picture an adult who is staying home because it's more fortuitous. Oh, I like that word. Fortuitous for them to do so. They have no job. They rely on taxpayers' support through any and every part of public assistance they can get their hands on. Perhaps they are receiving stimulus checks as well. They haven't worked since the pandemic hit, or maybe longer. Which one leaves a sour taste in your imagination? Both of them, right? The one who doesn't want to work and the one who can't work, right? It's just like that. It's just like that. I know there are some people like, unless you have a physical ailment, right, that prevents you from doing particular things, like you can't work, you have a disability that prevents you from studying and so forth, you know whatever. It has to be physical. It has to be physical. I would say that you then can be exempt from the need of making money, right? Then you can rely on assistance and other things. But if you're not planning on making no money, you're gonna have problems. Really, you're gonna have problems, right? For me, the second scenario, why was the difference simple? In the first scenario, our protagonist is enjoying a day outside of the norm. It is a treat, a mini vacation. It is called a rest. In the second scenario, it is a lifestyle. It has turned into a permanent state of being. It is called laziness. So yeah, I'm all for that rest. I'm not for laziness, man. If you can make money, you're gonna need to make money. And the thing is, like that, the thing is, people that aren't working, it doesn't mean that they're not being intimate, or that they're not going out, or that they're not partying. They're doing all those things. You're doing all those things, so you could, if you can go out and party, you can go to work, man. For sure, you can go to work and make some money. But if you don't, the consequences are just going to be devastating. Eventually, you're just going to be a dependent on somebody, right? And that person can do whatever they want. And then that includes leaving you if you become too much of a burden and offer nothing in return. Laziness may have further reaching consequences than you imagine. Here are some ways laziness can influence you and others in your life. Number one, your mind. Lie around on your couch all day, glued to your favorite reality show or video game, and your brain's critical thinking skills could also go on hiatus. I suppose that's true. I suppose that's very, very true. People who are working, people who are busy being productive, you have no choice but to be alert at a really mentally high functioning capacity. And I notice this also when I'm working, I'm really functioning at a high mental capacity. But if I'm resting, during my 90 days, I find that I'm not really mentally stimulated. So I may like indulge in things like books and audiobooks, documentaries, that kind of thing. Something that is just jam packed full of facts and information, right? Now, having this platform, because I plan to be as consistent as I can be, that may no longer be a problem. But yes, I find that when I am lazing around, so does my brain. And when I am working, so does my brain. Some people who are physically limited find ways to keep their brains sharp. They read, they take online classes, and learn new skills. That sounds like me. All right. I'm reading audiobooks, documentaries. I may watch a course or two. I may watch 20 hours of a course, depending on how good the course is, just to gain some insight into that field of study, and maybe I might learn something useful in my own life. But I'm really not watching Housewives, that kind of thing, right? And I might enjoy a sports game here and there and that kind of thing, but otherwise, I'm gonna need something really stimulating. I'm really gonna need something that is gonna make me think, right? Not feel like, think like, oh, this has these consequences for this reason. Like, deduce something, right? The person who fills their mind with video games, where am I? And fluff shows in all their free time isn't doing themselves any favors. I agree. I agree, right? Man, a lazy brain, I really can't tell you how disappointing a lazy brain is. A person who doesn't have the capacity to understand new information and bring forth deeper insights. You know, you need to be the kind of person that when people speak to you or they engage with you, even for a short period of time, when they leave, they are a better person, right? It's one thing to make a person feel like a better person. So, you say things that motivate them and inspire them to want to work hard. But it's another giving them the tools to do so. It's another saying to them, you should read The Art of War and take the time to understand it so you can be a strategic thinker. And then give him something from The Art of War, right? He will win who prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. He will win who knows how to battle superior forces and inferior forces. He will win whose army is animated by one spirit throughout all its ranks. You hit him with things like that, it's bound to motivate him to do more. In a quick, short session, he is now a better person. He has something that he can consume and latch on in order to grow himself. But to make people feel good, sure, sure, right? It has its effects, but ultimately, people are just gonna take that feeling and not have any action steps behind it, and that's not sufficient, right? You need to be able to give people something that they can act on, thereby decreasing and eliminating the effects of laziness. And how does laziness affect your body? Yeah, laziness. If you don't want to work out, you're not gonna be all right in terms of physical health, and looking good. Let me tell you something that maybe you don't know. People are working out. People are working out in secret, right? There are people who are working out, like I know we discuss working out here, but there are people who are working out in secret. When they're with you, they'll eat what you eat, they'll go to where you go, and then get home and just crack on, and just nail 10 kilometers at one go, just running, 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 burning all those calories. And what you're going to do is you're going to get home, and after you've had a great meal, and you're going to eat something sweet, right? And then drink something even sweeter, right? We know this. We know this. The shops are filled with that stuff because people are buying it and consuming it. But people are exercising, and they're doing it in secret. There's no person who can exist in this world eating the processed food, eating the takeaways, because like you can't avoid takeaways. For instance, if you're traveling somewhere, you're going to need to eat something. You're going to need to eat takeaways. And in order to keep all that down and that weight down, you're going to need a strict exercise regimen. Like people have a serious exercise regimen and exercise and diet, but more exercise. And they just won't tell you. They'll just let you believe and feel like it's all natural. Like, oh, I have a high metabolism. No, they don't. No one has a high metabolism. Everyone is killing it in the gym, right? They're killing it in the gym, and you should be too. Just know that. Everyone that you think is looking great or he's always been thin, that's because he's always been in the gym. So if you're lazy with your body, you're going to gain weight for sure. For sure. It says your body is greatly affected by laziness. Indeed. Sure, you may gain weight. Yes, you will. But even if you dodge a few additional pounds, you will not dodge any pounds. I promise you, you will not dodge any pounds. If you're not exercising regularly, you're going to gain weight and it's going to show. Your body is going to suffer. This is true. The human body is created to move. Everybody is created to move. That is why we have tendons, muscles, and joint. If you are able, avoid sitting around all day. Get up and move around, even if all you can manage is a quick walk around the room. You see, things like this, these quick walks around the room, things like that are the reason why you gain weight. Because what you're doing is effectively walking to the bathroom and then walking to the kitchen and then sitting back down. I have a fruit company smartwatch, right? A fruit electronic company smartwatch. And it tells me to stand up every hour, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? And I have it set for like 10 to 12 hours every day of standing. That standing means absolutely nothing. You can stand and close and achieve those goals, right? I don't want to mimic their stuff, their language. But you can achieve those daily goals and it'll mean nothing in terms of burning calories and losing weight. You need to exercise, it's just unavoidable. Just accept it, man. Just accept it, make peace with it. You want to look good, you gotta exercise. And you gotta be like serious about that exercise. And you gotta choose a real exercise like running or sports that requires running and jumping, that kind of thing. And you gotta do that sport every day. Walking is not an exercise. Absolutely not. A sedentary lifestyle has been linked to all manner of chronic problems such as poor circulation, constipation, diabetes, cardiovascular issues, and a loss of stamina. Yes, yes, all of that. Now, I'll be honest, after I run, I feel very, very tired. But otherwise, I find that other than like busy days at work, I have no problem standing for 3 to 4 hours at a time before I really need to sit down. You know, um, you know, running is one thing. I'm not running for 4 hours. I can run like an hour at a time. But if I'm running for an hour, it means I'm standing for an hour, which I can do that. But with no rest, I can do 3 to 4 hours straight, right? Walking, doing, living, working, doing whatever, and then sit down for a few minutes and then proceed again, right? Now, this doesn't indicate, a demonstrating of demonstration of great stamina, but you are not 100 years old, as is the lifespan of the ancient one, right? So you're young. You're supposed to be able to do this. Let's see if you'll be able to do it at, say, 75. Idleness is the stupidity of the body, and stupidity is the idleness of the mind. I like that one. All right. This is from Johann G. Sumer. Johann G. Sumer. That sounds German or Nordic somehow. I don't know. Number 3, your mental health. Let's see how laziness affects one's mental health. It says, there is nothing that can take place. Let me do that again. There is nothing that can take the place of the sense of accomplishment when you have put in a good day's work, finished a big project, or completed a task, even the most mundane. Is it any wonder that people who laze around day after day have more issues with anger, anxiety, frustration, and a sense of low esteem? That actually makes some sense, right? I do feel good for doing that 10K run every day, right? I do feel good when I accomplish. It's not ecstatic. I'm not excited, but I do get a good feeling from a sense of accomplishment. And every time I accomplish something, I get a good feeling. Every time I'm done running, I'm glad that I don't have to run. And that's a good feeling. I'm glad that I'm done running for the day, right? Then I can look forward to tomorrow's dread. I do enjoy making the videos, but every time I'm done with a video, I do feel like I have accomplished the task for today. I have taken another step forward into the journey, and every video is a step forward into the journey, our vasectomy journey. So yes, these daily accomplishments, these daily tasks, they can serve as a source of good feeling, good energy. And I think it also depends on what your task is. So I'm reading what I believe is useful information in an interesting and concise way. I don't think I would have the same enthusiasm if I was reviewing videos of counterparts. I want a man with 10 fingers on one hand who's 10 foot tall and who can live in 10 houses at the same time, right? I don't think I would have a good feeling doing that type of thing. And I'm staying so far away from it. It really makes me feel uncomfortable, to the extent where I'm very happy doing this, right? But having done another video, I do feel like, okay, I've taken that step, and that step forward feels good because I'm not stuck on yesterday's step, right? So it's like every day there's a step forward and a step forward and a step forward, right? Something will increase, something will get better. That helps me. And it makes sense that, if in the back, and I'm also one who, if I know I have these things to do, I have work to do, I have a video to make, and I have 10Ks to run, and then I might have some errands to do. If I make the video but don't run the 10Ks, I don't feel accomplished. If I make the video and run the 10Ks but don't complete the errands, I don't feel truly accomplished, right? And it's the same with my accomplishments on my fruit company smartwatch, my fruit electronic company smartwatch. I need to hit all three, the exercise, the daily calories, and what's the other one? The standing, right? How many hours you're standing for. I need to hit all three in order to feel accomplished. And unless it is your goal to hit all three, you won't understand the frustration that comes with not doing it, right? So it does say here that people may suffer with anger, anxiety, frustration, a sense of low self-esteem. It nags you. Eventually, you just have to come to a point where you're like, you know what? I'll just do it tomorrow. Some days are very long. Some days are very long and jam packed. So you do have to, organize your time. But if you have goals that you want to achieve and you don't have achieve those goals, or that failure, that can stick with you. It can stick with you. It says the answer, of course, is simple. Get up and make a schedule. Do something and do it regularly enough so it is routine. Go back to school, get a job, learn a new skill, learn an instrument. Something to make you put out effort will reap the greatest rewards. Yes. Action is the only power that can affect reality. Otherwise, it's just dreams and wishes, right? It's just dreams and wishes, pie in the sky, as they say. So if you want to achieve something, anything, you have to take the necessary action to achieve that. It's like if you want a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, you need to take the action steps to do that, right? So, for instance, if your coffee is already ground up and you're making instant coffee, you could put in your sugar, your milk, right? And put in a tea bag and you won't get coffee. You gotta put coffee in that coffee. That's the only way you make coffee. You cannot put hot chocolate and get coffee. You cannot put a tea bag and get coffee. You need to put the coffee in the coffee. And that's what people are not getting. You think that just because you make an effort into something that you should get a result. No. There are lots of people that make efforts that result to absolutely nothing. You need to do the action specifically. You need to do the actions that are specific and necessary to achieving that goal. Otherwise, you can take actions that you intend to go somewhere that will land you somewhere else, right? And that is tantamount to failure, in my opinion. There is a disclaimer here. It says the above is targeting people who are lazy and not those who truly suffer from mental illness. If you do suffer from mental illness, then always follow the advice of your doctor or therapist. Or your mental illness may come from the fact that you are lazy because you are unaccomplished, right? Failure can really devastate people. Like trying something and then not doing it or not achieving it because you just didn't put in enough effort, that can break people. There are people who wanted to be like stars and didn't do what was necessary to be a star. And I don't mean like bad things like that. I mean like they just didn't go to rehearsals. They didn't care for their voice. They weren't resting. They started having bad habits, and it ruined them. It absolutely ruined them, right? So, and that kind of failure, knowing that you had the chance, you had the capacity, and you didn't pull it off because of your own misgivings, oh, that can hurt people. It can make them not want to try anymore, right? Even though, maybe their next attempt would have been the one. Your mantra: plan your work and work the plan, has been my dad's mantra for as long as I can remember. I always say stick to the plan. Whether he learned that from his father or from his days in the Air Force, or if it is a natural philosophy of his type A personality, I don't know. However, I do know that the pithy phrase works. Why? Because when you make a plan, you feel like you have steps you can take to move forward with whatever needs to be done. Um, I say set goals, make a plan, and maintain standards, right? Um, you have to have a goal. You have to have a goal. You have to say, I want to achieve 100 million. I want to achieve $1 billion. I want to be the richest man in the history of the world. Whatever your goal is, then you need to create a plan. Now, this plan will surprise you. You need to create a plan that is simple and direct. So you say, I want to be the most powerful person in the world. What does that mean? It means you need to be the president of the United States of America. It's just that simple. So you want to be powerful, it means you're going to be a politician. You want to be the richest man, it means you're going to be a businessman, right? And you're going to delve into various types of businesses, from tech to manufacturing to, retail, whatever. You just need to do what needs to be done. But once you have the goal, and then you sit down and think of the most direct route to your goal, the simplest, straightest, most direct route to your goal, and you follow that. And chances are you'll make it to the goal around 10% faster, right, than what your intention is. But you need to have a goal. Most people who have a goal and a plan and a time frame, your goal has to have a time frame to say, I want to have achieved this by this date. Most people will achieve that a little bit sooner, right? Because they'll know what they need. They'll know what they need to increase. So once the process starts to work, you'll know, okay, I need to increase more of this, right? So once I start making videos, I know, okay, I need to have an article, I need to have an article, I need to always have an article, right? So soon enough, what happens is you end up with like 20 articles that are waiting for you to do videos on. So you go from doing one video a day to doing two videos a day, right? So, and now you're achieving your goal a lot faster. This is what happens when you have the process down. You can then repeat that process as many times as you want, and the more you repeat the process, the faster you get to your goal. That's why people, successful people, have a process that they follow, right? And they'll have a standard for their company to maintain, right? So that they can achieve those goals and those successes, right? It really works, right? You need to have a plan, and then stick to that plan. Uh, Working the plan means you get off your backside and get moving. It has been said that the hardest part of overcoming laziness is taking the first step. Working the plan removes the hesitancy over the first step. However, I have seen more and more lately mottos like laziness isn't a bad thing, but if you read these types of articles, what they are promoting is something similar to the first step scenario at the beginning of this article. They are talking about taking a random and infrequent segment of time to unwind and recuperate from the busyness of life. What I'm talking about are those who dodge work and responsibility like it is the national pastime. So, there's people who say things like she's talking about like people who say like laziness isn't a bad thing, right? I've heard people say work smart, not hard. Nonsense. That's literally the kind of thing that a lazy person would say. Work smart, not hard. No, 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 no. You need to work hard. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You need to be functioning at full capacity in order to be productive. And the minute you're not, somebody who is gonna overtake you and overcome you. There's no If you were smart, you would know that you need to work hard. Right? It's like if you're smart, you would know that you need a degree. You need to go to university. I don't want to hear nothing from somebody who says they don't need a degree, right? Because there are things that you learned there at university that you use in your job every single day. Even if your job is not directly related, there are skills that are transferable from one area to another area to another area, and you can only pick up those skills in a particular place. I don't want to hear nothing from people who say you don't need a degree. I'm not tolerating that at all, right? It's just madness. You one of those people who say, "Oh, work smarter." No. If you were smart, you would know you needed to work hard. If you were smart, you would know that you need a degree for sure. And even if you don't use that degree, you should be smart enough to know that people are going to discredit you because you don't have one. Right? There are people who criticize degrees all the time. They'll say, man, degrees are useless. And then they'll tell you, I have mine. I have mine, even though I never used the thing, right? Because they know that having that degree qualifies them. Not having it disqualifies them in particular circles. And they know this. They know it doesn't matter what your degree is in, right? Doesn't matter where you could have a degree in fine arts and African linguistic studies, right? But you have it. You have it. And that's the important thing, and then the other thing that she talked about is getting started. You know, that's the most important thing. Once you get that first video out, you're gonna get the second one out, and the third one, and so forth. It's one thing to stop after you've tried and failed. It's another to have never tried at all. You need to put out that first step, good or bad, right? But you need to be strategic and plan, right? So have an idea, what are you going to talk about, what's going to be your message. If your message evolves, that's okay, but have a message, have a point of contact, have something to discuss, have something to share, and then take the first step. So have a product that you want to deliver. Don't just deliver yourself. That's the worst thing you can do, delivering yourself, telling us your feelings. No. Have a product and a concept that you want to discuss, and then discuss yourself in conjunction with that. Let people know you through your work, right? They'll know your character, they'll be able to see about you, but then there's always the material that we can latch onto. And I think the hesitancy of starting really begins with what kind of product do you have. If you're going to open a shop, you need to know what product you're going to sell. And knowing the product is going to tell you everything. You're going to know the audience, you're going to know the target market, you're going to know who to appeal to, right? Mine is for men, not because I am male influencer adjacent, even though I am, right, willingly or unwillingly, but because I'm promoting a vasectomy, right? Can't promote a vasectomy to a counterpart, she doesn't need it, right? So the vasectomy is for men. And it's also not for bachelors alone. It's not just for married men alone. It's not for divorcees alone. It's not for knee benders alone, right? Every man can relate to this issue on some level. And I think every counterpart can benefit also, to a certain extent. So, how does laziness affect your family, your friends, your acquaintances, people that you work with? Family, friends, not so much of a meaning for me, but acquaintances and people that you work with, that can make a big difference. If you are lazy at work, that's going to be a catastrophe, right? At work, you are the butler, you are the number one servant. I don't care what your title is, I don't care what your position is, right? You cannot be seen to not be being productive, right? And you don't want to fake pretty. The hardest thing to do is to fake working, trying to play games on your phone or be on social media while pretending to send emails at the same time. Like, how are you typing and on your phone at the same time? Like, no, man, like, why put in so much effort to pretend to be working when you could just finish the task and then sit calmly and peacefully on your phone with all your work delivered and done? But no, you don't want to work because you want to do this. At work, you cannot be that person. You cannot be the person where other people feel like they're working hard, but you're just taking it easy, right? Just consider yourself a butler, number one servant. Go in there and know that you're a nobody, right? Have that attitude at work, right? There's somebody who thinks you're a nobody anyway. So have that attitude at work, and work like somebody who's a nobody, right? Even if you're in a position of leadership. Pick up the broom and sweep the dirt. Just pick it up and sweep the dirt, right? Grab a towel and wipe the spill off the table. You're a CEO, I don't care. Serve the fries, right? Serve the damn fries. You've done it a million times. That's why you're CEO. A million one and one won't hurt. But at work, you cannot be lazy, man. It is devastating to people who want to respect you, and then they just see you being lazy and incompetent. I mean, that's how you lose people's respect, by being ineffective and unproductive at work. In other words, you're being lazy. A habit of laziness has a ripple effect at work. Everybody's going to talk about it. Everyone's going to talk about how lazy you are and how you don't want to do nothing, right? And then people are going to go out of their way to try and look for things and situations to prove that you're lazy. Everyone in your social bubble will notice and react in their own way. For example, I know lazy people, hardworking people, and people who fall in between. If I have to delegate something that is important, I'm going to ask the busy person to do it. I have found the old saying true. If you need something done on time, ask. I think that means ask a busy person. Call me a cynical, but I have no faith that a lazy person will get anything done on time. I'm the same. Unfortunately, a lack of motivation and responsibility will adversely affect others. I had no inclination of interrupting not a single one of her words because I agree with every statement that she said here. And I'll give you an example of my own endeavors, a mistake that I made as a younger man. But what she says here is if you want something to get done, give it to a busy person. Give it to a person who gets things done, right? A lazy person has a lot of time because they are not doing nothing and have no intention of doing anything. This is true in my own observation and in my own experience. Let me give you an example that has nothing to do with being busy. It has to do with money. A long time ago, I had the opportunity of investing in low cost housing. And at the time, I made the calculation that at the time, if I had bought the Sanctum of Solitude, my home, my pride and joy, if I had bought the Sanctum of Solitude at the time, it would have taken all my money and I would have no money to furnish it or to live or anything else, right? It's a really expensive, nice house, right? It would have just wiped me out. I had the money, but it would have taken all my money. Instead, I got an opportunity to invest it was about a third of the money, and then to get two commercial properties, well, not commercial, but residential properties, low cost housing. They were in a decent neighborhood, they were well priced, and I thought everything was fair and all. And I thought it was, and I thought, well, I'll be getting two properties and still have some money left over and still be able to build up to, buying the Sanctum of Solitude, which eventually I did. Here's what I learned. Is there's a reason why low income people live in low cost housing? Because they don't got no money. And if you think people in low income communities are going to pay rent, you are out of your mind. This is something that they didn't tell me. I would have been better off buying a massive house, I believe, and putting in a family to live in there so that they could pay me my rent. People in low cost housing don't pay rent. And it's not because they're not good people or they're not honest, they just don't have the money. They have just enough money to pay the rent and the deposit, and then they are bankrupt. If they pay rent and deposit, you're not getting rent at the end of the month. They had to take money from somewhere, from somehow, to pay that rent and deposit. And if they do, you're not getting the full amount. And once they start paying short, they're going to be paying short forever. Right? They just don't have the money. And it's something that I learned. I was like, hey man, if you want to make money, you have to deal with rich people. If you want to sell an expensive product, you have to sell it to people who have the money, not the people who wish they had the money or feel bad that they don't have the money. I thought that I would, you know, there was a part of me that thought, this might be seen as an act of philanthropy. On the one hand, I could make myself feel good by doing something that I thought was good, providing good quality accommodation for people in low income areas, a house that was safe, that was well lit, that was clean, that was well maintained. I'm never doing anything like that again. I'm never doing nothing like that again. Not only that, it took forever to get rid of that property, you know, or those properties. It took forever to get rid of those properties. I had to eventually sell them at a loss. So I was renting at a loss and I sold it at a loss. And I realized that day, you know what I mean? What this lady is saying today is true, that I realized that day. You want to make money, you got to deal with people who have money. You want to get things done, you have to deal with people that get things done. The last thing that's going to be affected is going to be your country, apparently. At the risk of sounding a little melodramatic, being lazy can have negative effects on your country. That's interesting. We are seeing this firsthand right now in America. People are complaining about airy, empty shelves in stores. What we need to realize is that the supply line isn't suffering because of illness, but laziness. Many people are simply staying home because, frankly, they are getting more money from the government to not work than when they are receiving a wage. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. I did not realize that government support could fund so much of your existence that you could be making more money than if you were just working. It never occurred to me. That is a problem. That is a serious problem. One that I have no interest in fixing. I don't even, if I have to be honest with you, I don't expect nothing from the government. And if I do get something, I'll be very grateful to receive it. But I don't even expect a retirement. I don't expect not one single cent out of retirement from the government. I'm being dead honest. My life does not indicate that I will be receiving anything from anyone in terms of sustaining me now or in the future. And this is like I think there's a law in the country that says they have to give you something like as a senior citizen and whatnot. Whatever that is, I know it's not going to be sufficient to sustain me. I'll take it, but I don't think I can rely on it. So I'm really planning on just going at it my own way, right? So I'm all about those savings because I know in the long term they're going to count for something. Inflation or no inflation, cash money is cash money. And it's going to work. Somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to take that cash money, right? Your investments are going to end up just like my apartments. Fortunately, I was able to, to sell, and some of the rental helped out, Eventually, you just kick a tenant out. I can't tell you how many tenants I had in a very short period of time. Eventually, you kick them out, another one comes in. You kick them out, another one comes in. I can't tell you how many people I've kicked out. You always think the next tenant will be better. No, they won't. No, they won't. You're offering low income housing. The only people, I realize the only people I'm gonna be attracting are people with low incomes. In other words, they got no money, and a lot of these people have children. That's something that I never mentioned. A lot of my tenants had children, and dependents, which means they got no money. That's a lesson to learn. But this problem with the wages is going to be a serious problem. That means people are never going to be motivated to get off government support. This means there is a shortage of workers in many businesses and organizations, spanning from hairdressers, hospital and employees to stock shelves. That's true. So if people are getting paid more money not to work, they're not going to work. Recently, we inquired our local Dollar General regarding their empty shelves. It was so bad I thought they might be going out of business. The answer was no, they aren't going out of business. But despite all their advertising for help, they don't have enough employees to stock the shelves. Well, there you go. You just won't have, but you won't have enough people to do the work that's necessary to be done. But then you're paying people not to work. And then when they do work, they just don't make enough money to support themselves. I can imagine a situation where if you offered people 10% more, so whatever they get in total over government grants, and you offer them 10% more to get a job, I think they'd still refuse. I think they'd refuse because they would just downgrade something or sacrifice something. That 10%, it would be negligible. It would be something that they could do without. Whereas an ambitious person like me, I'd take 5%. I'd be like 5% more. You know, over a year, that's gonna add up. That's how I would think about it. But lazy people, they just do without something. They just sacrifice something and be like, okay, there, now we've made the difference, right? It says here at a time they had 3 truckloads of merchandise, but it was all stacked in the back because there was no one to unpack the goods. The government should stop paying people to stay home. Get out there, get a job, and take care of yourself. The time for staying home out of fear is past. If you are concerned, wear a mask, get vaccinated. But the economic truth is that people need to get back out there, and work. There was something here where she says the government should stop paying people to stay home. You know, there's another side to this. You could get people to come in and work in your organization and in your corporation, and they could be so inefficient, so bad at the job that you are practically paying them to destroy your company, right? Like you would be much better off if they just weren't there, you know. In which case, you'd probably be benefiting from just paying your taxes, and the government uses those taxes to keep those people home. I'm talking about lazy people, and I'm not talking about people who have a disability or a genuine reason preventing them from achieving their full productiveness or achieving their full ambitions, right? I'm talking about lazy people. Those people, they can destroy your organization, man. Lazy people can destroy your organization. And you have to remember that for companies, their biggest expense is going to be wages. Right? Now, they could be paying 1% in wages, 1% of profits in wages. That would still be their biggest expense, which means like without wages, their expenses could go down to practically nothing, right? Just like manufacturing costs or that kind of thing. But and then you also have to understand that wages come from profits. They don't come from operating costs. Stocks, machines, stationery, that comes from operating costs. But wages, they come straight from profits. So if profits are low, that means wages are low, right? So I mean, this is the difficulty of dealing with lazy people, people who can do but don't want to do. Eventually, you bring them into your life, into your organization, and what they do is they are a drain on your resources, on your patience, on your money, on your skill, on your knowledge. Everything that you give towards them is just a drain. But I thought this was a very delightful article, and I really enjoyed reading it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And it really truly does demonstrate that we have lazy people among us. We have lazy people among us. There are people who know what they should do, know where they should be, know who should they should talk to get the results they want, but they don't. And this laziness is going to affect you. If you're too lazy to get a vasectomy, I want you to know that this is going to affect you in a very serious way. You're going to end up in the dark dimension. You're going to end up bending the knee. All right, you're going to end up with a slow, lazy mind. You are going to end up with a body that is just not comfortable, unhealthy. Your mental health is going to be, completely out of whack, and eventually you're going to destroy your country. But people are not going to appreciate laziness, especially at work. People are not going to want to see the laziness that you are demonstrating here by not getting a vasectomy, not freezing your sperm, which you should have done by now, or at least started the process. And that kind of laziness is going to prove to be unproductive. And unproductivity is going to be problematic for you as a bachelor and as a would-be vasectomite. Can you imagine getting somebody pregnant and then deciding, okay, now I want a vasectomy? I would say that's a little bit too late, you know. So think about it. Take the time out of the game to freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. In a few weeks, in a few months, you'll be back, and nothing would have changed, right? This is not the thing to be lazy about. This is really not the thing to be lazy about. It's the thing for you to be diligent with, and then to take action. But this is the end of the video, and again, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I want to say that I really appreciate it, and I always will. If you have enjoyed this content, please like it, and please share it with somebody who you think will enjoy the content and will benefit from it. As always, please, if you are so inclined, leave a comment. I appreciate them and I read all of them, and I will respond to as many of them as I can. I am the Bachelor Supreme. I am the Ancient One. Again, thank you for your time, and I'd like to wish you a wonderful, wonderful day.